Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Okay, we're continuing in our discussions of healing, self-healing, and what's involved in learning to heal ourselves, right? With guidance and tools provided. And today I wanted to talk about grief, because grief plays a very large role in healing, in whatever you're needing to heal from, right? We can grieve an individual, an important individual in our lives, right? And their contribution to our lives as a whole, their contribution to our lives every day, right? And contributing to potentially making us the person that we are today, right? It's very big. And grief is a process, right? And we go through ups and downs, and it varies by individual how long it takes, right? There's no defined start, there's no defined end, right? It's a wave, basically. And eventually, when we get to the point where we can look at the experience and the person with gratitude, and gratitude for everything that the person contributed to us in our lifetime, making us who we are potentially, or any other, relationship that has ceased to exist, right? We need to go through the steps. It's a process, and we don't have to rush it, right? We have to feel the feelings, go with the ebbs and flows of grief. And most people are familiar with that. We all experience grief at some point in our lives. Obviously, it's different for each person, whether you experience it as an adult, your first experience with grief, or if you experience as a child. It differs, right? And it creates who we're meant to be, I believe. But what isn't talked about a lot with grief, which I wanted to touch upon here, and we would get into more depth with this in my program, and or if you were receiving individual coaching on this topic. Grief isn't just the loss of a life, or, any life, an animal, pet, a person. It isn't just that. Grief is very multifaceted, because we can grieve our hopes, right? We can grieve our hopes for the future and what would have been and could have been and now won't be, right? We can grieve the dreams that we had for our lives. We saw our lives in a certain way, and now it's not going to be that way as a result of the loss, right? We can grieve the person that we thought we would be, and things that we thought we would potentially have in this life, and we won't have that now. Our hopes and dreams, our wishes. It's very complex, and it's very layered, and it doesn't have to just be grief of those things, right? It can be, and it's very, like I said, layered and deep. But we can also grieve choices that we've made, right? That have impacted our whole lives, right? When we made a choice that, looking back, we probably wouldn't have made, knowing what we know now, but we made it at the time with the wisdom and knowledge that we had at the time. And now we potentially could grieve a choice that ended up with a result that potentially we weren't expecting, right? Didn't consider or weren't expecting in that process. So it's all meant to serve our highest good, I believe, but it doesn't make it easier in the process, right? So I just wanted to touch on a couple of those things relating to grief, because grief is definitely part of self-healing and moving along in our healing journey. And there is no start date. There is no end date. It's a journey. Grief is a journey, really, because we can experience sadness and emotions at one point when we think about it, or there's an anniversary or whatever it is that brings it up for you, and it brings up emotion in us to make us aware that we're still healing, and how we handle that and what we do with it is our personal choice, right? But when we can get to a place where we can think of the person, the experience, the loss, the change to us, the change in our lives, the change in our potentially, you know, hopes and wishes. And when we can look at that from a elevated perspective and see it as all creating who we are at this moment in our lives and how it contributed to a level of strength that we've achieved as a result of it, then we kind of know that we've moved through the grieving process, right? But it doesn't end. It's a journey. So if this resonates with you, please leave comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. It is very multi-layered and complex, and we all have our own experiences with different levels of grief, okay? I'll see you in the next video. Wishing everyone peace, love, and healing on your journey. Have a good day. Bye-bye.